They told me never to talk about what I saw on Route 77, but if you are hearing this right now, then maybe you are already too close to it, and I need you to understand one thing before we begin. Once you notice it, it notices you back. And there is no forgetting after that, not ever. I still remember the night like it is carved into my skull. I was driving a long-haul delivery job through the middle of nowhere, somewhere between two towns that barely exist on any map. The kind of place where your phone loses signal and the road feels like it is swallowing your headlights. It was around 2:13 a.m. when I first saw the sign, faded metal, bent slightly to the left as if something had grabbed it and tried to pull it down. It read Route 77 next exit. No other markings, no distance, just that. I remember laughing because I had driven this route before and there was no exit there. Not even close. But the storm outside was getting worse. Rain hitting the windshield like someone throwing handfuls of gravel, so I slowed down anyway. And that is when the radio cut out completely. Not static, not interference, just silence. A silence so clean it felt unnatural, like the world had turned off its sound on purpose. I should have kept going. I know that now, but curiosity is a strange thing when you are alone at night. It convinces you that every wrong turn might just be a shortcut, so I took it. I turned right onto Route 77, and the moment my tires crossed onto that road everything changed. The pavement was too smooth, too fresh, like it had been poured only hours ago. The trees on both sides were perfectly spaced, identical in shape, almost like someone planted copies instead of real growth. And the deeper I went the more I felt it, that uncomfortable feeling of being watched, not from behind, not from the sides, but from everywhere at once. I kept driving for maybe 20 minutes, maybe an hour. Time started behaving strangely. My dashboard clock flickered between 2:17 and 2:16 like it could not decide what reality I was in. Then I saw headlights in my rearview mirror, except they were wrong. They were too dim, too low, almost dragging along the road. I slowed down to let them pass, but they did not pass. They got closer and closer until I realized something impossible. There was no car attached to the lights. Just the lights themselves floating behind me in the rain, moving like they were searching for something. That was the first time I felt real fear. Not the kind you get from horror movies or stories, but the kind that makes your hands forget how to grip the wheel. I pressed the accelerator, trying to leave it behind. But Route 77 does not behave like a normal road. It does not matter how fast you go. The scenery does not change, only repeats: trees, road, darkness, trees, road, darkness, like the world had been photocopied and stretched forever. And then I saw the first structure, a gas station, glowing faintly in the distance. The sign buzzing with broken light that spelled out only gas, and then a flickering T that came and went like a heartbeat. I pulled in because I thought maybe there would be help, maybe a phone, maybe answers. But the moment I stopped the engine, the silence outside became heavier, almost physical, like it was pressing against the windows. I stepped out, and the air smelled wrong, not like rain or soil, but like metal left too long in water. The station looked abandoned, but the lights were on inside. Flickering slowly, as if breathing, I walked toward the door, and before I even touched it, it opened by itself. Inside there was a man standing behind the counter, except I am not even sure it was a man. He looked normal at first glance, tired eyes, pale skin, uniform that said attendant. But his mouth was slightly too wide when he smiled, and he smiled immediately when he saw me, like he had been waiting for years. "You are off route," he said, not as a question, but as a statement of fact. I asked him where I was, and he tilted his head like he did not understand the concept of where, then pointed at a map on the wall. Except the map had no names, only circles, hundreds of them, all connected by thin red lines that seemed to shift when I was not looking directly at them. "You are here," he said, tapping a point that was not on any road I had ever seen before. I asked him how to get back, and he stopped smiling just for a second. And that second felt like the entire building froze. Then he whispered, "You already passed the return." And that is when I noticed the radio behind him playing static again. But inside the static I heard something that sounded like my name, repeated slowly, not from the speaker, but from somewhere deeper, like the building itself was speaking through it. I backed away, telling him I was leaving, and he did not stop me. He just said, If you see your headlights again, do not follow them. I did not understand what he meant until I got back to my truck and saw them. My own headlights, parked behind me, engine running, pointing down the road like they were waiting for me to come back inside them. I froze because that should not be possible, but the worst part was the driver's seat was empty, except for the faint outline of someone sitting there, like heat still lingering after a body leaves. I did not sleep that night. I drove, or at least I think I drove. Because the road outside stopped making sense again. Sometimes it was wet asphalt, sometimes it was dirt, sometimes it looked like concrete from a parking lot that did not exist. And the further I went, the more I started seeing things in the trees. Shapes that looked like people but moved wrong, too slow, too synchronized, like puppets waiting for a signal. And every time I blinked they were closer, never directly approaching, just closer than before, until finally the truck engine began to cough. Not breaking down, but hesitating like it did not want to continue, and then the fuel gauge dropped from full to empty in less than a minute. I had no choice. I pulled over again, this time into what looked like a rest stop, but the sign above it simply read waiting area, and that was the moment I realized something horrifying. The road was not taking me somewhere. It was keeping me somewhere. I stepped out again, and the rain had stopped completely. The world was dry. But the ground was still wet under my feet, like it remembered rain that was no longer happening. There were other trucks parked there, dozens of them, all identical to mine, all with engines running, all empty except one in the farthest corner, where I saw a silhouette sitting inside a cab, watching me, not moving, just waiting. I wanted to run, but my legs felt heavy, like the air itself had thickened. I walked toward that truck anyway, because something inside me needed answers even if it killed me. And when I reached it, I saw the driver, or what used to be one. His face was stretched slightly wrong, like it had been pulled too tight and never allowed to relax again. And he said the same words the attendant said. "You are off route." I asked him how to leave, and he pointed behind me, and when I turned, I saw it, a road sign that had not been there before, glowing faintly in red light. It read Route 77, entry only, no exit. No return, only entry, and that is when the realization hit me fully. This was not a road. It was something alive, something that collects travelers who make the wrong choice at the wrong moment, something that learns your habits, your fears, your memories, and uses them to build the world around you until you accept it as real. I ran back to my truck, but it was gone, replaced by another identical one, and inside it I saw myself, sitting still, staring forward, not moving, not blinking, like I had already accepted it. I do not know how long I ran after that. Time stopped meaning anything. I remember falling, standing, running again, seeing the same gas station, the same attendant, the same broken lights, looping endlessly like the road was folding me back into itself. And every loop I became more tired, more confused, until finally I stopped fighting it. I walked back into the gas station, and the attendant smiled like he had been expecting this exact moment. He handed me a set of keys and said, "Your shift begins now." And before I could ask what he meant, I was outside again, inside a truck, engine running, headlights glowing into the same endless road, and I understood then the final truth. There was no accident, no wrong turn, only recruitment. Route 77 does not kill you. It replaces you, and now if you are still listening, and if you ever see a sign that was not there before, one that says Route 77 next exit, do not slow down, do not look back, and whatever you do, do not let your headlights catch up to you, because if they do, you will no longer be the one driving, you will be the one waiting, and the road will keep going without you forever.